Welcome to Creature Fridays, where I give you a quick introduction to one of the animal species found in the UK.
Subscribe to Forest to keep learning about UK nature.
For the fifth video, we're going to take a look at Sitta europaea, or the nuthatch. The most obvious feature of the nuthatch is the way they move. They will hop in a zigzag pattern up and down tree trunks, with one leg placed above the other. They're the only bird in the UK that is able to climb head first down a tree trunk, so if you spot this behaviour, you know you're looking at a nuthatch. Thanks to the powerful grip of their toes, this bird is even able to climb upside down along the underside of branches. Nuthatches are found across England and Wales throughout the year. More recently, the warming temperatures have allowed their range to expand into southern Scotland. The first records of nuthatches breeding in Scotland came from 1989. However, this bird has never been recorded in Northern Ireland. They're considered to be a sedentary species, meaning that they don't migrate. Bird ringers will put rings on the legs of birds like nuthatches to track their movements each time they are recaptured. No nuthatch that was ringed in Britain has ever been recorded as having travelled to the European continent, and likewise no European ringed nuthatch has ever been recorded as turning up here. Although they're capable of flying over longer distances, they will usually only fly briefly between trees. Nuthatches have a very distinctive appearance alongside their behaviour. They are larger than robins but smaller than blackbirds, and so are considered a small to medium-sized songbird. The first thing that you're likely to notice is the long black stripe going over its eyes. The back of a nuthatch is a bluish-grey colour, while the underside is a rusty yellow colour. Their white cheeks and throats stand out where they meet the other marking colours. They have characteristically large heads and short tails compared to their body size, and a long dark grey beak that is shaped like a woodpecker's bill. The typical habitat for a nuthatch includes large old trees with big canopies that they can forage and nest in. This means that they're frequently spotted in woodlands, parks and gardens. The destruction of forests containing large trees has caused some local declines in nuthatch numbers, but they're generally doing well as a species and are both common and widespread across their range. The nuthatch's name comes from its unique foraging method. It will jam nuts into tree bark crevices and then hammer them open with its strong bill to eat the contents within. You might be able to spot surplus nuts that have been hidden in the gaps between tree bark, left there to be eaten later. The nuthatch will also feed on seeds and insects. It is often seen on garden bird feeders during winter, where it's one of the more aggressive feeders and can stand its ground against much larger birds. Look out over your garden in November, and this is the best time when you're most likely to see them, because records indicate that they occupy around 17% of British gardens at this time of year. Nuthatches are a very vocal species that will give out loud calls when they're excited, sometimes calling with up to 10 notes in a single second. However, during April and May, the breeding season sets in and they become much quieter. They are very territorial and hold their breeding season territories throughout the year, provided that food resources remain abundant. To start his courtship, a male nuthatch will approach a female and expose his brightly coloured sides to her, fluffing up his wings and fanning out his tail. After selecting a mate, the pair will stay in close contact with each other. They forage close by and call out frequently to each other. If another nuthatch approaches the territory, they will perform a series of calls, displays, and finally chases until the invading bird leaves. Their displays involve spreading out their tail and dropping their wings down. If it needs to be more intense, then they'll spread out much more widely both their tail and their wings. If this doesn't work, then they'll use their feet and their beak to fight off the intruder. Nuthatches nest in holes in trees or abandoned nests, but are also known to use nest boxes. The female will mostly build the nest by herself, taking between 2 and 4 weeks to complete it to satisfaction. Often being unsatisfied with the size of the opening, nuthatches will pack mud around the entrance hole to make it smaller. They will then line the interior of the nest with wood chips and bark. Building a good nest is important because the female will often reuse it for several years. The female will then lay up to 13 eggs in the nest, although this is more often around 7 eggs. She can produce 2 clutches in a single year. She sits on her eggs for around 2 weeks, and after the chicks hatch, they are fed by both parents for approximately another 10 days. Once the young become independent, they can live for up to 9 years, although usually only for 2 years. If you enjoyed learning about this animal, check out some of my other videos.